So real quick one, because this has got to be on the Insta chats and the Supergrams. Kevin Savo, Savo. Look him up. He's almost as jacked and ripped as I am. He's a younger man, 25, 26, and he has a show, and he was talking to a gal, and he was saying, I didn't know that men in the 1950s didn't beat their wives. And he goes on to talk about that's how shock the baby boomers and his teachers and whoever else told them that the 50s were like the 50s were just the men. You just go, oh, where you going, Frank? To beat the wife. And I realized, there's 20 years difference between me and that young man. And I want to point out, yeah, you guys have been lied to because we didn't get that, but it was starting to happen. And when I saw that, I found it so appalling because, like you and many of you guys, you've had grandfathers where they just didn't. That didn't happen. But you can't just say that like that didn't happen. It's so preposterous. And so you had to go and look it up, though, anyway. So I tried to find any data about spousal abuse, domestic violence, things like that. And I couldn't find any. Couldn't find anything that would indicate. And because you just don't want to say, look, dude, it didn't happen. It's political Marxist propaganda. It's feminists having to paint the victim card. So you have to go and find it regardless anyway. The data, it might be out there, but I couldn't find it. But yes, like you, both my grandfathers, well, one was Ward Cleaver and would never. The other one had an insufferable woman as a wife, and he never hit her either. And the same people that told you global cooling, or us, maybe there's a different generation, we were told the paper companies were going to cut down all the forests. Not kidding you. Not kidding. When little do you know that you're supposed to, like, they grew their own trees because it's easier to harvest. What else? Any degree is a good degree. Do any of these lies sound familiar? The redefinition of forcible bedroom, not fun time. These are the people who are going to, yes, they're rewriting history. It did not happen. Now, that's not to say it didn't happen. Yes, but not at rates higher than today. I may probably lower because frankly, people were better people back then. They were. Had jobs. People were too busy working. And that is just a feminist propaganda to like, ooh, and not to bore you with politics, but the main reason is you can't have the 50s be as idealistic and successful as it was because there were lower taxes. It was like kind of the golden era of America. Some people would argue it was before that. You couldn't have the nuclear family and America being on top with relatively low taxes. I say relatively because the tax rates that were lower in the past. And you could not have the nuclear family exist if feminists were going to go on and destroy the patriarchy. Oh, you're oppressors. You need the government. You don't need a dad. See how well it's worked now? But yeah, that's a lie. That is just an outright lie. Men were not beating their wives and then the 60s, just poof, it all ended. It just all ended. Yeah, 50s are great. By pretty much every measure, you look at everyone's standards of living, you look at, hell, you could even look at things that aren't numerical or economic. Our debt rate was really low. We were just coming off of World War II and Korea. But you look at now you look at the fashion. That was really good. Girls were thin, if you can remember that. Men weren't pussies. Then you just went home for the daily beatings. So there you go. I saw a super chat in here. Eric Powell, $5. While I don't condone domestic violence, knowing what I know about women, I wouldn't blame them back then. It's that, yes, there's always been agitating. That didn't give you a right to hit them. Does not. You just walk away. You go away. But yeah, I I would imagine there was less of that. I mean, but there was always nagging. There was always the what was the British comic that wasn't funny? The woman always had the rolling pin in case her husband came home drunk. You know, there was that existed for a reason. It wasn't all like June and war, don't get me wrong. But they are so desperate. They cannot let that decade stand as beautiful as it was without tarnishing it or undermining it because it proves everything wrong that they want. Proves the nuclear family, proves you need fathers in community, you need men in community, proves men like thin, attractive women. No one really talks about that much. You didn't need the government except for some kind of defense and some basic, government type of services. Oh, but then 20 years later in the 70s, oh yeah, like you just have to look at the fashion. I know that's somewhat unfair, but just look at the fashion. Bell bottoms, poodle skirts. I'll take the poodle skirt. Thank you very much. Rojo October, new guy, Red October. Oh, yeah, all right. I should have known better. $2. Thanks for keeping it honest, Cap. I appreciate it. Yeah. I mean, just look, guys. Always ask yourself the question this. The people that are telling me this, what else did they tell me? Follow your heart, the money will follow. You're oppressed. It's those people's fault. A degree is a good degree. I'm trying to think just be yourself. Big is beautiful. You can print off more money and nothing will happen. You're entitled to things. Well, why? Okay, I'd like to hear that. I'd like to hear I'm entitled to things. Why? I didn't do anything. Does that? I'm trying to think because these are like, the ozone hole, the ozone layer. You guys don't remember that one. We got to get rid of used cars. Guys, remember that? Cash for clunkers. They destroyed all those used cars. Wouldn't you guys like those now? How has socialism worked, by the way? I mean, you look at people where they've implemented the most. You could see that on the municipal level. Detroit, San Francisco, New York, Minneapolis. How is it? Is it good? Did that work? Yeah. And then you say, and men were beating their wives in the 50s, according to you people who are batting for about 8 or 9, right? Oh, we're all gonna die because of a coof. You're gonna believe those people, huh? All right. All right, that's it. See you guys later, Toodles.